There was a rule on our ship that everyone had to follow. Never go outside after midnight. Last night we broke it. Working on a shipping vessel is tough. The physical labor, constant seasickness, and isolation from the outside world take a toll. Some men prefer solitude, but I'm not one of them. Back home, I have a wife and a small girl called Emily, whom I love dearly. I will never get used to seeing their sad faces when I have to leave. It's daunting, but the camaraderie here is something you'll hardly find anywhere else. I'm going off to sleep. Don't go walking around outside, all right? The captain said, smiling. Can't promise that, Cap, James said. They both laughed, and the captain walked away. I looked at James in bewilderment. No one told you yet, huh? James said. Tell me what? You can't go outside the bridge area past midnight. What if the fog sets in and your radar stops working? Still ain't going out. Are you fucking with me? No, sir. James looked dead serious. That makes no sense, I said. It ain't gotta make sense, but you gonna follow it. What if I have to go out? Then you ain't gonna come back. He bent forward and stared into my eyes. Look, we're in a deep part of the Atlantic. Strange things happen here. Decades before you were born, all the fishermen and crewmen here made a pact. I'm not gonna let you break it. He leaned back and kicked his feet on a chair. How about you tell me about your family? You got one? I tried to get more out of him, but he wouldn't answer. We got to talking about other things, but what he said still loomed in my head. And then I told him not even a whale could eat that much. I burst out laughing. James was slapping his leg, rocking back and forth with laughter. I looked out. The sun was coming up. Another beautiful day at the sea. The seagulls were flying by and the smell of sea salt was in the air. Is it safe to go out now, James? I said and chuckled. James's demeanor changed. The smile was gone from his face and he stared deep into my eyes. Billy, this ain't no laughing matter. He got up, collected his things, and walked to his cabin. The next shift, I got there early, excited to spend another night talking with James. He was already sitting in his chair. Her name's Emily. She's just turned 3, I said, showing James my daughter's picture. Ain't she beautiful? Aye. Cap, come take a look. The captain walked over from the control panel and looked down. She really is. She definitely didn't get it from you, Bill. Both he and James started laughing loudly. I laughed too, although a little hurt. This was the first time the captain spoke to me informally. Young Billy here has been asking about the midnight rule. You think it's time you tell him? Why wouldn't I? He's stuck with us here for another 2 weeks. At least he won't do anything stupid. My eyes opened in excitement, and I leaned closer to the captain. James saw it and raised his eyebrow at me. Look, Bill. For a long time, ships that would fish in this part of the Atlantic would lose all their crewmen. The story was always the same. The communication would stop abruptly, and the ship would stay dead in its place. The Coast Guard would then venture out and find an empty vessel, almost as if no one had ever been on it. One day, a young seaman was found hidden inside one of them. He said that the night crew didn't come back the same, and soon murdered everyone. He was the sole survivor. The officers suspected him, but the young man hanged himself soon after. I looked at them in disbelief, but their expressions were ice cold. Do you believe all that? I don't know, Bill. No one knows if what he said was true, but since his story came out, all the ships that fish here stopped letting their crew out at night. It hasn't happened since. Aye, my PA told me the same story. He used to fish around here, too. You don't have to believe it, Bill, but respect it. Sure will, Captain. Good, now where's that whiskey you got, James? That's what I like to hear, Cap. James walked away to the deck. You and your wife still together, Bill? Yes, Captain. Beautiful. I used to have a wife, too. Unfortunately, things didn't work out. Life at sea doesn't help relationships. You're still young and smart, Bill. Get out while you have the chance. This, coming from the captain, startled me. James, meanwhile, returned with the whiskey and poured each of us a hefty dose. To Bill's family! The captain yelled and chugged down the drink. James quickly followed. The captain stayed with us through the night shift, drinking heavily. When the sun rose, I could barely stand. The captain and James were already waiting in their chairs with shots of whiskey when I came in the next night. Ready for another night, Bill? The captain asked and handed me a drink. Sure thing, Captain. Aye, Cap, Billy Boy is learning! James screamed out and slapped his knee. We were already a few drinks deep when the boat started moving around more. I looked out. My vision was blurred, but I could see storm clouds forming in the sky. "Hell of a storm coming, gentlemen," James said. "That's a big one, James." "Don't you puke on me, Billy, if the boat starts rocking," James said. "Only if you don't throw up at me first," I fired back. We all started laughing, but my chest tightened as I glanced out at the storm above the sea. Soon, the boat was rocking violently back and forth. I was holding a bucket, throwing up all the whiskey I consumed, barely able to open my eyes. "Good thing we got him that bucket," James laughed. But then, a strange, loud sound came from outside like steel being scraped around. Both the captain and James perked up. I could hear the captain mumble, "The gear is moving." They both looked at each other. Their eyes were wide with terror, and laughter had long left their faces. They both rushed to the window and looked out. James took off his hat and started crumpling it in his hands. "What's the time?" the captain whispered. 12:05, James said quietly. "God fucking damn it. Who hired those incompetent fucks?" The captain yelled out and threw his hat across the room. He started pacing back and forth, looking down at the ground. Then the scraping again. The whole ship tilted the other way. There was genuine fear in their eyes. The captain looked at the clock again. "Bill, are you fit to operate?" "I guess so," I mumbled. "Okay, James. You and I will go out on the deck and reattach the chains. That should stop the equipment from moving." "Captain, but it's past 12. "I know!" the captain screamed out. "But do we have a choice? If we don't do anything, the ship will go down." The captain walked over to the closet, pulled out the raincoats and harnesses, and threw them at James and me. "Let's go." He put on his coat and walked out. Outside, the weather was horrible. Hard, heavy rain with lightning in the distance. The waves crashed hard into the ship, spilling water onto the deck. I had to use all my willpower to hold the puke. We put the harnesses on and clipped in. The captain stayed back to watch and guide our process. Only now did I look at James. Terror was in his eyes. The captain yelled out to move the boxes of equipment to secure the gear, then to take the safety chains and reattach them. We quickly got to work. Each move on the deck felt like hell. Waves kept crashing into the ship, splashing water into our faces. The boxes were heavy. My body was so weak, but James pushed hard, and we managed to block the gear for a while. "Get the chains now! The chains!" the captain yelled. We took the chains and started reattaching the gear. The chains felt heavy, and reattaching them to the wet floor made it so much harder. I could feel my muscles slowly giving out. James had to rush over and help me attach them. I was so weak that he had to pull me off the ground. "It's done. Get out! Get out!" James was already running back. I followed behind him. The captain unfastened the harnesses and we all walked back, locking the door behind us. We all stood in the hall, panting. The air in the ship felt cold. Every piece of my clothing was wet. I slid down to the floor and put my head on my knees. The captain and James were looking at each other, then at me, and back at each other. "Maybe the things ain't like storms," James said. "Yeah, probably," the captain replied. James helped me back up, and we slowly walked towards the bridge area. Each stair felt like a mountain. I walked behind the captain. He now had a very fishy smell. When we got to the bridge area, I sat back in the chair. My mind was empty. The captain was walking around the room, looking at all the shelves and controls. James sat back into his chair, opened up the bottle, and took a chug out of it. "Sorry, couldn't wait." "No problem," the captain replied. James poured out some whiskey for all of us. He tried to hand me the glass, but I declined. My stomach was still recovering. He then gave one to the captain. The captain twirled the drink around, looking at the whiskey under the light, sniffing the glass. A chill ran down my spine. I looked closely at him. He kept examining the liquid. James wasn't paying attention anymore, pouring himself another shot. The captain took a sip and immediately spit it out. "What is this?" His face twisted in disgust. "It's some good whiskey, Cap. Ain't like it no more?" The captain looked at him with one eyebrow raised, then looked down at the ground. "Say, how many men are on this ship?" James's eyes widened, and he dropped his glass. It shattered on the floor. We both looked at each other and started slowly backing away. "What's the matter?" the captain asked. "Yeah, James," I whispered, my voice shaking. The captain looked deep into my eyes. His pupils had turned to a dark red color. He flashed a smile and ran towards me. He put his hand on my neck and lifted me off the ground. I started choking, trying to fight his hand off, but he was too strong. I looked at James in desperation. He had walked over to the shelf and started frantically searching with his hand until he pulled out a gun. He slowly pointed it up at the captain, his hands shaking. He then pressed down the trigger, but nothing. Just a click. James looked down under it. The gun wasn't loaded. Blood froze in my veins. The captain looked back, let out a blood-curdling scream, dropped me to the ground, and ran towards James. He pushed him to the ground and started violently scratching and tearing into him with his teeth. My feet were rooted to the ground. Soon his screams turned into a low gurgling and then silence. Only when the thing looked up did I open the door and run down. I could hear the thing's screams echoing through the hall. I'm locked down in the vault of the engine room. The steel door is the only thing keeping me alive. In the first few hours, I had been hearing the screams of my crewmates calling out in pain. When the last scream died down, the thing called out to me in the captain's voice, saying it was safe now. I didn't answer. It then started slamming into the door. The vault is shaking with each thud. I have no idea how long it will hold. I'm making this post for my wife and daughter. Even in these tense moments, I'm held up by the thought of them. Please don't forget your father, no matter what happens.